Footprints for Freedom Embrace Tibet. Hello, I'm Britt from the Netherlands, Amsterdam, and I'm walking from Amsterdam to Tibet, Lhasa, 10,000 kilometers for peace and to let the Tibetan people know that we care. It's a one-year pilgrimage, started the 8th of August 2007 and arriving in August 2008 when the Olympic Games in Peking begin. This idea started to grow when I visited Tibet in 2005. Within these 3 weeks I got to know the country better and better, learned a little bit the language, getting to know the people. It was an unbelievable experience, especially to visit the monasteries and be among the monks and be in nature in the mountains. For me the ultimate visit was the Mount Everest, being on 6,200 meters and experience the power and the energy of this immense mountain. What me struck the most was their inner peace, the incredibly friendly way you always were welcomed in villages, in monasteries. That really touched my heart, and I really felt at peace traveling through Tibet. During the trip, of course, you also notice that the people are not free in their doings, and especially in Lhasa there are cameras hanging on the main square. Tibetan people find it difficult to talk with you when they're on the street because people can see them. They're quite afraid of sharing their beliefs. For me also the country is magic. It's an example, I think, for us everywhere around the world, because if you can feel that freedom, it's not in the country, but you feel the freedom among the people and you feel incredibly peaceful way they live and how they interact with each other, and yeah, I learned a lot from that. That's also a little bit why I started to organize my plan, Footprints for Freedom Embrace Tibet. I wanted to do something in a peaceful way to let the Tibetan people know that we care. Walking a Kora for Tibetan people is very important. They walk pilgrimages from their home village to a temple or to a city. These things are very important for the Tibetan people. So my idea grew to do something on foot. Back in Holland I started to think of why should I not walk from Amsterdam to Tibet. After 2 years my plan was clear and I started to organize the walk. Footprints for Freedom Embrace Tibet, 10,000 kilometers within 1 year, walking through 18 countries in Europe and Asia. I arranged a driver, Stephanie Morris, a Canadian girlfriend of mine who was able to leave the country for a year and join me on my pilgrimage. We left the 8th of August 2008 from the Leidse Square where I lived at that moment. We invited press and Campaign for Tibet was there on the bicycles. One of these Tibetans said to me, "I hope you can greet my mother when you're there," and that really touched my heart because he could never return to his home country. It took me 5 days to walk out of my own country. We really had to get in the pace, but within 1.5 to 2 weeks' time everything became quite smooth and the walking became more easy. My routine is getting up around 6, start to walk around 7 and try to walk around 35 kilometers a day, depending on where we want to sleep, on a camping or in a youth hostel, or depending where we are. I walk from village to village or from village to towns. I try not to walk along the main road. I try to find bicycle routes or walking lanes. I always end up at the church or the main square. I always try to find that because there are the little shops and cafes, and treat myself on a tea and have a half an hour pause to give my feet a rest. I light a candle in the churches where I pass for Tibet and for my friends and family. It took me 6 weeks to arrive in Vienna, and that was the time that Steph decided to leave me. This was for me quite a hard decision because I was back on my own again. Luckily, a friend of mine came to visit me for a week and he really cheered me up, and I decided to continue by myself. I drove the Land Rover from A to B and took the train back. And this worked well when the weather was nice and the stages were not too long. From Austria I passed Slovakia and I entered Hungary. Here I got a lot of help from a Hungarian friend who was living in Budapest. I entered Romania together with a friend, Angelique. She drove the Land Rover from Budapest and she joined me before the border. And she stayed a week. We had again great weather. We got a lot of help of local people and helped us with everything we had to arrange. I was really positive that it would work out for me this way. After a week, of course, Angelique left me, and the weather also changed at that time. I had a couple of days of rain, walking with 12 kilo on my back, and I entered a little town called Sebes, and there my luck changed. I left Sebes around 9 in the morning. I saw this boy standing on the other side of the road. He was leaning against the signpost, but I didn't pay too much attention to him, and I passed him. After 1 kilometer, all of a sudden he was standing in front of me. He followed me and he pulled me on my backpack, and I fell down a couple of meters next to the highway in a forest. In seconds he was on top of me and he gave me 3 fists on my jaw, and he tried to strangle me twice. He took my breath and I really thought this was the end. Luckily, out of my corner of my eyes, I saw this man coming towards me and he started to yell. The boy saw him and immediately left, and I had the time to get on my feet again. The man who helped me, Daniel Moran, took me to the road and gave me a ride in the direction of Bucharest. The next morning I went to the dentist. She told me that my jaw was broken after making photos, and at that moment it really hit me that I could not continue. I took the plane back to the Netherlands the next morning and immediately went to the first aid in the VU. There I got operated on my jaw and they put 2 metal plates to keep it together. And then at that moment I really had to take it slow. After 1 month I felt strong enough to continue my walk, but I didn't want to go by myself, and luckily there were 2 friends of mine who would come with me for 2 weeks. We continued from the place where I got assaulted. These 2 weeks with my 2 friends and 3 other friends who came to join us for a couple of days made it really special, and I became positive again and regained my trust in my walk and in the people in the country. After my friends left, I had a guide for a week to bring me to the border, and he also arranged a guide for me in the Ukraine to accompany me to Odessa. Landed in Odessa, back on my own again, 3,215 kilometers walked, another 6,800 to go, passing the countries Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, probably the Karakoram highway through Pakistan and Afghanistan, but it depends on the situation. And coming into India, Nepal, China, Tibet, Lhasa. On this long last part of my walk, I need support. If you want to join me on foot, you're more than welcome. Or are able to drive the Land Rover, please contact me. Or you can support me by joining the Footprint Gallery and buy a tea, or sponsor a kilometer on this pilgrimage. For more information, visit the website footprintsforfreedom.org. Here you can read my diary and get to know more about my walk. Please join me, support me, and let the Tibetan people know that we care.